As you know, the United States has been refueling Saudi warplanes that are dropping bombs and missiles on Yemeni weddings, and overnight or this morning on a school bus with children, in Yemen. I'm going to read this from the big bad boogeyman, RT America, who frankly does better reporting than the majority of the American corporate media, which is a shame. A bus carrying children in northern Yemen was attacked on Thursday, hit by an airstrike filed by the Saudi-led coalition. The attack killed dozens, many of whom were children under the age of 10, the Red Cross has confirmed. The bus was in the Dayan market in northern Sa'ada, a Houthi rebel stronghold, when it was attacked on Thursday morning. Following an attack, an international committee of the Red Cross-supported hospital has received dozens of dead and wounded, the Red Cross confirmed, adding that, quote, under international humanitarian law, civilians must be protected during conflict. Well, obviously, international law doesn't even matter because the United States breaks it pretty much on a daily basis, in addition to our allies in Saudi Arabia and elsewhere. Scores killed, even more injured, most under the age of 10, said Johannes Brewer, head of the International Committee of the Red Cross in Yemen, adding that the organization is sending additional supplies to hospitals to cope with the influx. The ICRC has now confirmed that the bodies of 29 children have been recovered, all of whom were aged under 15 years old. I just want to tell you, let me read this statement to you and then read the headline on CNN right now. The ICRC has now confirmed that the bodies of 29 children have been recovered, all of whom were aged under 15 years old. 48 others were also injured, including 30 children. The bus was transporting civilians, including many school children, but it is not clear how many of the casualties were bus passengers and how many were pedestrians on the surrounding street. And CNN's headline right now, Trump team's counteroffer leaves Mueller with hard choices. Does that say it all, folks? The United States, which is refueling Saudi planes to be dropping bombs on school children, killing 29, wounding 30, not to mention our ships that have gone on to aid in the blockade of ports in Yemen. And Wolf Blitzer, by the way, I tweeted about this. Wolf Blitzer does a segment on this. You know, reliable stenographer, Wolf Blitzer for the CIA, for the FBI, for Homeland Security, for the Pentagon. Wolf Blitzer has never not repeated whatever the government of the United States told him to repeat. Wolf Blitzer does a segment on it and says, do we know who dropped these bombs, who supplied these weapons? Without irony, without any mention of the United States' role in this. It goes back to what I'm always talking about, which is the out-of-touch nature of our media. And frankly, I'm going to call it like I see it. Not even independent media, including myself. I don't cover this every day, so I can't be a hypocrite. We're living in alternate realities sometimes, even in independent media, where we get caught up in Russiagate and Trump derangement syndrome, when we don't even think that there is a genocide going on in Yemen that we are helping to make happen. All because we want Saudi Arabia's oil. All because Saudi Arabia joins us against Iran. Think about that. 29 children got killed today. For what reason? I mean, actually, I shouldn't be surprised because the U.S. doesn't even care when United States children get blown up and shot. They cover it for 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, and then move on. So, of course, they're not going to give a damn about children in Yemen getting killed by our ally that we are helping to supply. I want to read this. It was a piece last year, but it's very good from The Intercept. Sorry again for Facebook if you can't see it. Saudi Arabia's years-long blockade and bombing campaign in Yemen has gotten very little coverage in the United States, even as the extreme food and fuel shortages have developed into one of the world's worst humanitarian crises. Now, as the Saudi noose on Yemen tightens, leaving 7 million people facing starvation. By the way, this was November 20th, 2017, so it's more than 7 million now. Leaving 7 million people facing starvation and another 1 million infected with cholera. The war is having its moment in the media spotlight. On Sunday, 60 Minutes aired a 13-minute segment on the war's devastating humanitarian toll. The program featured imagery of starving children and interviews with displaced people, all obtained after Saudi Arabia blocked 60 Minutes from entering the country. Quote, "You keep going like you're going, there's not going to be anybody left," David Beasley, executive director of the World Food Program, told CBS's Scott Pelley. "All the children are going to be dead." Well, 29 are dead and 30 more wounded, and we'll see what the final death count is. Coverage on such a high-profile program is frequently enough to get politicians to pay attention to an issue, and the 60 Minutes feature comes amid a growing debate about the U.S. role in the war. Just last week, the House of Representatives voted to say Congress has not authorized American military support for the Saudi-led coalition. Still, the program did not once mention that Saudi Arabia is a U.S. ally. We have such problems with Trump going to meet with Putin. No problem with the Saudi prince, who is a dictator. Oh, now he lets women drive cars. How nice of him. How nice of him to enter the 20th century, not the 21st. But let's forget all the genocide and all the murder at the hands of the Saudi Arabian prince. He comes in, does photo ops with Trumps, does photo ops with the Bushes. Oh, wait, sorry, that's whataboutism, to point out our hypocrisy and double standards. I know I can't do that. Whataboutism is a bad thing. Still, the program did not once mention that Saudi Arabia is an ally of the U.S. and that U.S. support is essential for the Saudi campaign to continue. For 2.5 years, the U.S. government has backed Saudi Arabia's intervention in Yemen every step of the way. The United States has dispatched warships to reinforce the blockade. It has refueled Saudi planes, sent the Saudi military targeting intelligence, and resupplied them with tens of billions of dollars worth of bombs. The U.S. has had the power to pull the plug on the intervention since the beginning. Bruce Riedel, a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution and a 30-year veteran of the CIA, explained last year that if the United States and the United Kingdom tonight told King Salman of Saudi Arabia, this war has to end, it would end tomorrow. The Royal Saudi Air Force cannot operate without American and British support. That means that for years, former President Barack Obama, who, by the way, just got another Courage Award, which is a joke, and now President Donald Trump had the power to stop the bombing campaign in an instant. Instead, U.S. government officials have watched Saudi Arabia use American weapons on homes, markets, farms, water infrastructure, hospitals, and children's schools. And let me add to that article, also on weddings, and now school buses carrying children. This is what's going on, aided by the United States of America. But we want to talk about Russia attacking our precious democracy. We want to talk about us being a shining city on the hill, or whatever that Reagan propaganda was. We want to talk about, America has its warts, but, I'll trade my spot in America versus any other country. We are commissioning the murder of innocent people around the world. And for what reason? Can anybody provide me a reason other than oil? Can anyone provide me a reason other than keeping our geopolitical advantages over Iran and other people? Michael Cooper says, oh great, I'm only 40 minutes late. Thank YouTube for not telling you I was live. Good to see you, Michael. And for the folks watching, make sure to, as a reminder, this is a super chat. So feel free to support this reporting. Dollars on the super chat or Patreon or PayPal. Jen will remind you in the live chat. I mean, this is maddening. Mostly I cover the misery, the bomb, and the war zone that is domestically the United States of America. You go to Detroit, you go to Flint, You go to Chicago, you go to Milwaukee, you go to even parts of South Carolina, even parts of California. Some of the blocks in the United States of America, some of the neighborhoods in the United States of America look like streets in Yemen, look like streets in Baghdad during the 2000s. And they get no coverage. But I'm sorry, I don't want to hear any more about the United States' oh so holy position around the world as a holy nation, and all this nonsense about the United Nations in the United States, attacking other countries of the United Nations for their terrorism. What we're doing right now is terrorism. And the media is very good in either not covering this, or when they cover it, issuing propaganda. Because that's what it is. That's what Wolf Blitzer is doing on CNN. It's propaganda for the U.S. government. Do you think Wolf Blitzer doesn't know the United States is in part responsible for the bomb that was dropped on that school bus today? More importantly, do you think Wolf Blitzer is leaving CNN's studio today with a thought in the world about 29 children that were killed in Yemen? I'm sorry, I don't. And I have been there. I have been in CNN studios before. I have worked at MSNBC. I have worked at Fox News of all places. I know how these anchors think. I know how these journalists think. They think they are bastions of democracy. They think they are doing God's work. And they don't care. Because you want to know something? You want to know how I know? Before I worked at the Young Turks, I wasn't fortunate enough to get out into the country to see what's really going on all over the country. I wasn't fortunate enough to spend time in communities that get zero coverage on CNN, MSNBC. So I was in my own little bubble. A lot of us live in a bubble because how would you know what's going on in other places if A, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter are making sure you don't see the news, but B, you don't get out to talk to mothers on porches in Flint, or you don't get out to talk to people in East Chicago, Indiana, or you don't get out to Syria or Yemen or whatever to see what's going on. How would we know? How would we know? When we look back, we have Holocaust Remembrance Day. I'm a Jew, so obviously I know about the Holocaust. Most people do. The Holocaust, we've learned the lessons from, right? But apparently, when it's quiet genocide going on, and you don't have, I guess, Hitler, and you have a Saudi prince that, by the way, 60 Minutes did public relations for and didn't challenge him at all. We have genocide going on that's not being treated that way. In our media, it's treated as some far-off, distant war. It's not. It's not a far-off, distant war. It's a war that if we decided to back out, the war would end.